Hey guys, welcome to our review for test 5.1. I'm going to run through a few practice problems with you guys, starting with number 13, where we're trying to write the equation of a parabola. Okay, so there are three forms here. We're going to do vertex, intercept, and standard form. Okay, so we could start with either vertex or intercept form. I'm just going to start with vertex as that is kind of the easiest one. Okay. So something like this, y equals a, x minus h squared plus k, right? So that's like what the baseline formula looks like. Let's fill in some numbers here, and then we can solve this. Okay, the basic idea will be let's take the vertex from here, 2, -9, x minus 2 squared minus 9, of course, from the other coordinate of the vertex, a in the front, and then y equals that. Now let's solve for the a value, that missing piece of information we have. So I'm just going to pick one coordinate that's on my parabola. In this example, I will just use 5, 0. So we'll plug this in, and we'll get something that looks like this. 0 equals a, 5 minus 2 squared minus 9. Okay, and now as we solve this, just be careful when you square this piece. It should come out to 9a times that a, of course, and then minus 9 equals 0. When you solve this, you will get that a equals 1. Okay, this a value is super important. Okay, now that a value lets me write this equation. Y equals x minus 2 squared minus 9. Okay, remember the one in the parentheses is always flipped sign from the point on the graph. Okay, now we can use this same a value again, okay, when we write the intercept form. So notice my two intercepts are here. They are going to be -1 and 5. So if I wanted to write that equation, we would say y equals x minus 5 and x plus 1. Okay, and you can imagine, hey, I'm going to use the same a value here, that 1 right there. Okay, so you don't need to write that 1, but we do say, hey, that 1 is definitely in the front there. Okay, and then finally, what about the final form, the standard form equation? Okay, so the standard form equation is just the multiplied out version of this. So if you sit and FOIL this out, you will get the multiplied out version. In this case, it is x squared minus 4x minus 5. Okay, and so again, if you FOIL out the intercept form, you can very easily get that. Note that all of these have the same a value in all the equations. Okay, so it is the first thing that you really want to solve for is, of course, the a value. Okay, so you can note there's a 1 in front of all of these. Okay, and that's the same a value that we've been using from here. Okay, and then they said using the intercepts, prove that the axis of symmetry is at 2. Okay, so how you can prove this using the intercepts, it is always halfway between the two intercepts. So what are my two x-intercepts in this case? We've got -1 and we've got 5. Okay, so what's halfway between them? You just do -1 plus 5 and then divide it by 2, and you will get that it comes out to 2. And therefore, that is your axis of symmetry, right? So just remember the AOS is the middle of two intercepts, okay? So between the two x-intercepts is, of course, the axis of symmetry. So let's check out what else we got. Okay, so let's rewrite some of these in different forms. Okay, so how do we convert something into vertex form? Okay, so this is the trickiest version of solving this. Okay, so for this first problem, we're going to use a method called completing the square, and it's a little bit tricky at times, but as long as we follow the steps, we will be okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the equation And I'm going to go ahead and move this 5 to the opposite side of the equal sign. Okay, so now I'll have a little bit of a blank space here, and we're going to fill in that blank with something that lets us factor this in a proper square. Okay, but before we start filling in the blank, this 2 needs to be separated out from the rest of the equation, plus 4x plus blank. Now notice I did factor it out, and I was careful to divide the middle number by that 2. Okay, so what we do now is we are going to take this middle number. Okay, we do 4, we divide it by 2, and then we always make sure to square that. Okay, so this is going to be like this, and what you will see is that 4 divided by 2 is 2 squared. Okay, now from here, what we'll do is we will take this and add it to the other side as well to make sure that we have not changed the value of the equation. Okay, so take this 2 you have here and then combine it with the 2 squared here and place it on this side. Okay, so it bounces off of there famously and it becomes like this, 2 times 2 squared. Now you may think, okay, why do I keep writing it as 2 squared? Why not just go ahead and jump to 4? This is why. Okay, so this 2 can come down, and then this equation can become x plus 2 squared, which is, again, just this number right here that I wrote that I'm squaring. It's like that, okay? Now, 2 times 2 squared, make sure you square first, okay? So it becomes 4 times 2, which is 8. Now, negative 5 plus 8 is 3, okay? And then finally, our last step is going to be to move our 3 back to the other side, okay? So you will get something like this. F of x, or y, equals 2x plus 2 squared minus 3. And that is what we would say vertex form is. Okay, now on the flip side of this, we have our next problem, which asks us to convert an equation into intercept form. Okay, now the previous one did not factor nicely, so we have a slightly different equation here. That's okay. All right. How we can factor this is, my favorite method is using grouping, okay? So what we'll do is we'll take the first number and the last number, and we're going to multiply them together, okay? And we get negative 6. And now I'm going to break that negative 6 into factors that would add up to negative 5, which is the number in the middle, okay? So there, I'm going to use negative 6 and positive 1. Now notice I did not pick 2 and 3, because if you do negative 2 and negative 3, those multiply to make positive 5, so you can't do that. Okay? All right, now let's set up our problem. We're going to take this middle piece and we're going to break it up. So we're going to keep 2x squared. We're going to have minus 6x and plus 1x and minus 3. Now notice those middle 2 terms that I split up from the negative 5, those add back up to negative 5. That's important. Okay? Now, we'll group them up, grab the first 2 pieces and the last 2 pieces, and take out anything in common that we can factor out. So from here, I'm going to factor out 2x, and I'll be left with x minus 3. And from this one, there's not really a factor, so we just take out a 1. We have x minus 3, okay? And now we combine these to make our factored form. So the 2 pieces that are kind of sitting here individually, the 2x and the 1, those will make a single parentheses now. 2x plus 1 and x minus 3. Okay, just as a propriety thing, let's make sure we write it in a completely correct form. Let's do f of x equals 2x plus 1 times x minus 3. Okay.